Welcome to another Assholes with Opinions. I'm your host, Marcus Merker.
Big Dubbz, what it is. Don't forget, follow us on everything. Social medias, hit that subscribe button, fucking like it, comment, turn on notifications, the little bell, Marcus got to remind you on that shit. Don't forget our Teesprings down below. If you're down with the streams, you know that we do Among Us every Friday. We got Tuesday Risk. If you want to join the Discord and get in, the link's down below. We had Gary Shroeder on today from Canadian Whiskey Enthusiasts, and he goes into the obscure-esque comedy / review writing of the Canadian whiskey.
It's fire.
Yeah, it's gonna be
podcast.
It was a good one. It was a good one. Unfortunately, Sab couldn't be here today. We miss him, but
Mr. Sab.
Let's go. Let's get it.
Assholes with opinions. Assholes with opinions. Assholes with opinions. Assholes with opinions.
Welcome to another episode of Assholes with Opinions. One of your hosts, Marcus Merker, here with Dylan Weber, one and only Big Dubbz. And we got a special guest today.
We got the Canadian whiskey enthusiast himself, Gary Shroeder. Say hi.
How you doing, folks? Thanks for having me on the show.
Yo, anytime, brother. Anytime. I love what you do. And that's definitely why I got you on here. Gary, what was the string along sentence? What is the string along title for what you are?
Oh, geez. So many words you kind of forget how to say it so eloquently. I believe I called myself Niagara's top obscure comedy noir Canadian whiskey writer.
Yeah. Something along those lines. Yeah.
Yeah,
something along those lines. So you do you run Canadian Whiskey Enthusiasts. You write articles about whiskey, but not only do you write an article about how the whiskey is, but you do a fictional tale that goes along with these drinks. And how did you come to this idea of writing?
Honestly, I've been writing ever since I was in high school, really. I've always had some sort of creative flair or creative interest where I always did want to write. It was hard for me to put the words I was thinking on the paper. And, when you're starting out, there's always a lack of confidence as well, right? So yep. I would kind of write and practice a little bit, give it up, go back to it, give it up. And as I kind of grew up and, just working in kitchens as a chef and seeing all these crazy people that we associate with in food and beverage, I noticed that we had a bit of a darker, twisted sense of humor. And there was a lot of stuff that we'd say that was a little bit tongue in cheek. And
that's actually how this podcast came to be, because me and Marcus just talk so much reckless shit at work together that we're like, we should just make a podcast that wild people like us will listen to.
Yeah.
Right on.
That's how it works.
It does, yeah. Well, that's kind of how it came to be, Finally, I just said, I have an interest and this is what I want to do. And I was reading a lot of Anthony Bourdain at the time, and I kind of liked his dry delivery and his sarcasm, and he's just he was a really approachable, lovable guy, and I thought, I could do that, but in my own voice and with my own humor and with my own style of delivery. And the way it started out was, I was making like shitty short little descriptions, really vague, really simple, and really striving to make a joke. And as I practiced and we got a little bit of practice in, and we got a little more courage and we got a little more confidence, and we could start seeing that what we were doing was proficient. And not only could we tell a joke, we could write. And as a couple of years went on, it was kind of like a day where we knocked down a wall, and everything kind of opened up for us. And we had a little bit of mentoring. We had a few people in whiskey writing groups, and it's a very proper sort of fellowship when it comes to whiskey. I'm not one of these people, but you have a lot of rich old white dudes
Okay.
that want to buy whiskey and spend a lot of money on it and show it
Right.
off to their
Yep.
buddies and shit, right?
Yep.
For sure.
Put it in their special little canteens.
Exactly. And we had a lot of really accomplished people who were very proper and very white collar, and they didn't really have much of a sense of humor. And all of a sudden, I came along, and I didn't know the rules, and I just kind of picked this niche little idea, and I presented it to a couple bloggers groups. And the one guy, he's a bit of a whiskey historian. He said, "You know what, man? Like, you're doing something nobody else is doing." He goes, "I want to see where this goes. Maybe you're just a flash in the pan sort of thing. Who knows? Maybe you're not really all that, don't have all that much potential in the first place." So I kind of took that, and I took it as a bit of a ambition and a bit of a push. And he told me, just take what you're doing and just expand on it a little bit, because nobody else is doing this. And at that point, we started breaking down these molds and these barriers, and we focused more on tying in really taboo subjects and comedy noir. And instead of trying to think of witty jokes that kind of would hit somebody's ear the right way, but kind of fell flat on a few more people, we just took realities that were funny, strange, sick, obscure, and we started writing essays about it. We would write about parasites that would control animals and make them kill themselves. We would write about cannibalism. We would write about, all these things that never had to do with whiskey. Like, who the fuck wants to go buy a $2,000 bottle of scotch and go eat somebody's arm? Nobody I know.
Yeah, no. They don't go hand in hand.
No pun intended. Yeah. And that's just how we took things. And we just went further. We ran with it, and all of a sudden, not only did we gain self-confidence, but we also gained readership. We gained people that wanted to tag along with us. And it's kind of it was kind of a really shitty thing that happened, but a good buddy of mine, Kenny Kurtzen, we were out for beers one night, and he said, "Gary, I'm reading what you're doing. I took journalism. I majored in journalism. What you're doing is really, really awesome. This is how I wake up on Sundays. I read your stuff, and I really appreciate what you're doing." And I kind of had to say thanks, man. I really appreciate the kind words. And that was, little did I know, that was the last conversation we were going to have. And he passed away unexpectedly a couple weeks later.
Rest in peace.
And sorry, I always get choked up at this point. And it was fucked.
Yep.
Yeah. And at that point, I always said, we're doing it for Kenny. And the conversations that we had and the things that we talked about and the things that we did, it just, everything that I did was, everything that I wrote about was me saying, "This is for you, buddy." And, that's my ambition. And if there really is somebody looking down on us, I know when I go see him again, that's where he's going to grab me. He's going to say, "Come on, meet some buddies of mine." And he's going to introduce me as a writer, sort of thing. And I know it's silly to think that way.
No, I know he would thoroughly enjoy these writings. I know,
if he were here today, he would.
Right up his avenue.
Yeah, he'd be part of our team and everything else. But so aside from all that, though, what we're doing as of the last 4 or 5 years, we've been looking for content, and we were covering obscure news, weird things that would happen. There was a girl on I'm just going to pick out a random idea, but I read in the news that there was a girl that was on a date in England, and they have those funny windows that they open up like this. You remember the ones in grade school? Some of them did that, right?
Yep.
So she's on her first date, and she has to go take this big shit, and she takes this huge shit, but it won't. She's afraid it won't flush down the toilet. So she takes the shit out of the toilet. This actually happened. She scooped the shit out of the toilet and she fucking hucked it out the window. And because it's a V like opening where you open this one and then you open this one, when she went to go throw it out, it got caught on the outside window and it slid down into the V. So you're on your first date, you took a big shit, you chuck it out the window, now it's stuck in the window.
That's a wild
story. You gotta climb in and get rid of this huge log. So she climbed into the window, and her legs went up, and her center of gravity went into the window, and now she's stuck with her legs hanging out, and she's face first with a turd on her first date, and that was vertical. Like that kind of itself. And then we started going on adventures. We started creating content, and we started going out of our way to go out and meet people, or kind of just write down stories of what we saw and what we did and things we did in the past, and things that were really fucked up, and we remember them, and we just kept delivering them through our articles.
I like it. I seen that you guys were having whiskey tastings, and you were doing them with paired menus.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
How did that venture go?
Very good. So myself, when you come to a lecture or a tasting or whatever, we put out a pretty wide variety of bottles and a cocktail, and I'll match it with finger food, candied nuts, chocolates, dried fruits, baked item, things that match the profile of the whiskeys that we're drinking.
Okay.
And a good buddy of mine, Chef Paul, as we've always called him, he's part of our team on CWE, and he's our personal chef. So if we get a call to come out and do a dinner for some people, he works away in the kitchen. He comes up with a menu. I find the bottles that match the dishes that he's putting out, and we work together. He comes out and he does the whole thing. He's dressed in his nines, and he cooks in the kitchen. We both present the plates, and we pair it with a whiskey.
Nice. How many tastings have you had so far?
Oh, geez, dozens and dozens and dozens. I'm pretty well.
That's great.
Yeah, I'm well experienced with it now. Yeah.
Okay. And is it just like mainly like Canadian whiskey? Like
what we're focusing on, my personal interests lie in Canadian and American whiskey.
Right.
First of all, we're making awesome product, and people don't know it. Canada has a terrible reputation for making really, really poor quality whiskey. And the whole reason that we do make poor quality whiskey is so we can sell it to the frat boys in the States, and they can pour Coca-Cola all over it or ginger ale all over it and get fall down stupid. We tend to keep our really, really good whiskey up here, and we keep it in our niche markets. We make very small productions of it. We keep it cheap because we're not exporting it. We don't have to pay a whole bunch of taxes on it.
Right.
Okay. People who buy
so in your opinion, what would you say is the best Canadian whiskey?
Oh, geez, that's a tough question, man.
Top three.
Give me your top three. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, as of today, Wiser's as a brand is just killing it. I mean, everything they do is top notch, and what I really enjoy is that they don't cut corners, and even they're cheaper or lower end, you can still tell there's a lot of quality and care, and the blending and the creation of it, there's a lot of passion behind it. So I'd say Wiser's is probably number one right now. They just put out a couple special releases. One's called Red Letter. That's going to be, if it's not the Canadian of the Year this year, I don't know what's going to be.
Okay.
40 Creek is always really good. They're the ones that brought Canadian to the fore once again. It was over 20 years now, but when they first came out, they really dug up a lot of attention, and it brought a lot of attention to Canadian whiskeys. You know, there's other brands that we have that are just killing it, but there's so many to mention. You know, it's tough to mention everybody.
So a little like off of like say Canadian and North American whiskey for a half a second. As somebody who's a whiskey enthusiast, have you tried Proper 12 like Conor McGregor's whiskey?
You know what, man? It's an Irish. I don't go so far into, you know, European whiskeys or British whiskeys. Irish and Scottish and English and Welsh whiskeys. Anything from Europe, I'm not so big on. And the other thing, a really big factor for me to scare me away from a bottle is that it has a celebrity endorsement. Yeah, I don't care for that at all.
Okay.
So no, I haven't tried it.
Fair enough.
Have you tried it, Marcus?
I have.
What was your?
I think it's a half decent whiskey. I think like I understand like the idea of like not maybe like drinking a bottle of like something that's celebrity endorsed, but I would say like I do trust a Conor McGregor, somebody who like genuinely cares about the whiskey. Like he has really like stopped really focusing on MMA and really put his effort into that whiskey company. So I'm not saying like I can't say I'm on your level or anything like that, but I was a good whiskey for me. I'm not huge like whiskey drinker. I'm a tequila guy, so like I think tequila and whiskey are kind of you're on one end or you're on the other. I think, but I think for the most part, like I think most whiskeys are half decent. But the Proper 12 is an all right whiskey for an Irish whiskey for sure.
Right on. And it's all about what you enjoy, man. I can't tell you what you like. You know, it's all about the profile that you're into.
But I do like Wisers, though. I do like Wisers. I will admit that.
And the best thing is that when you go to look for a bottle of Wisers, the whole world expands because you go reach for, you know, your typical bottle of Wisers Deluxe, and you know, sorry, I'm not disappearing, but you go reach for your bottle of Wisers Deluxe, and you don't realize that right beside it, there's a whole bunch of other Wisers products.
Right.
You're just grabbing a $30 bottle, but yet there's an 18-year-old, there's a 15-year-old, there's a 23-year-old, there's Wisers Small Batch, and there's all these Wisers Legacy, and there's all these different bottles under the Wisers umbrella that really helps expand the whole library. So it's not just about having that one bottle for that one
right.
brand. You know, people say they hate Jack Daniels, and you know, I can't blame them. I got sick off of myself a couple times, but it's not just that black label bottle. There are so many different varieties of it that are out that are global class, really.
And so earlier you were saying the when you stepped into the Canadian whiskey world, you realized that you weren't sitting at that level of, you know, outlook on society, rich white old guy, right?
Yeah, I'm definitely.
So when you started doing this, did they take kindly to that as a whole, or were there some people that pushed back from the idea and weren't having it, or?
You're always going to find a mixed bag of personalities. I find that people tend to have a stronger opinion when they're not in front of your face.
Right.
You know, I'm going to throw this out there, but it doesn't mean anything yet. I'm 6'4" and I weigh 250. I'm a big guy. I'm a lot of person.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm above average size. And, you know, I'm a gentle giant, to be honest. I'm very timid. But when people see you at these events and whatever else, they're very kind and very accommodating. And they would never say anything that's offensive to you. They don't even want conflict. But once you're writing something and publishing it for the public on Facebook or on your websites or on Instagram, Twitter, however you want to publish your message, that's when people can start getting really snippy, and then they want to say their opinions and how they feel about And let them have it, man. Let them do that. Some people are very, very supportive. I think Canadian whiskey enthusiast kind of breeds that sort of environment. We don't hold back any punches, and we cut our teeth basically exploiting people and making fun of weaknesses, and self-deprecating as well. So I mean, it's all everything's funny or nothing's funny.
Right on. So tell me a little bit about the website that you got going on. So what does the website offer if I was to go to Canadian Whiskey Enthusiasts?
Website, it's if you go onto the website, you're gonna have a pretty plain looking panel, and it's just basically hover and click. There's drop down boxes. If you go over a subject that you're interested in, it's all very specifically categorized, so it's very, very friendly. If you want to read about Canadian, if you want to read about American, there's two very separate columns. You want to read about brandies or scotches, it's all there. It's all categorized. When you click on a bottle, you are going to get a few paragraphs of an essay, a fictional story. You never know. You never know, because I never know what I'm about to deliver, and I never know what our team's about to do either. So we kind of, until we hit the send button, we don't really know, because we might get to a product that we're pretty much happy with. I might just scrap the entire thing. It's unpredictable.
Yeah. Okay.
We don't know. We don't know how we feel about it. Some days I feel good about it, but nothing. What's important is that nothing's getting out until I'm happy enough to release it.
Right on. How many people do you have on your team right now working with you?
Oh, geez, I don't even know anymore. God, in articles, we tend to snap in and out of characters so much. So you just got to keep up with things like that, because our writing is really off the wall. It's really fast. There's a lot of tangents. There's a lot of segues, and it can be difficult to keep up from one article to the next about what we're doing in our office. And we see we have personal chefs and janitors and editors. We have a pool guy. We have chauffeurs. We have contributors. We have people that are gophers for us. And then we have people that come out on adventures for us. And those are, physical, realistic people that we have to change their names. And everybody on here, if their name isn't Gary Shroeder, then they have an alias, because we literally set out to commit a whole slew of petty crimes. And that's how we build our articles, is just we're going to go out. We're based in Chippewa. We write a lot about Chippewa. And we go out and we try to rattle a few cages, really.
I remember when you put out the Chippewa cannibal video. That should have been an internet sensation.
I know you like that one. Thank you, man.
It was very, very creative.
Pardon me?
Very creative.
Oh, thank you.
I used to, every time I would drive past your house in Chippewa with somebody, I'd be like, yo, the cannibal lives there. They're like, what the fuck? Just trip people out. Be like, yeah, man, I know him. He's a great guy.
So what was the line that I used in that? I kept inviting over. The story was that I kept inviting over writers, and we would kind of capture them and kill them, and I myself we would keep eating these writers and eat all these different writers that came over, and it was kind of like one of these things that we would absorb their,
like a Shang Tsung of
we would absorb their powers or something, right?
Yeah.
And at the end of it, after we ate so many different writers and we felt like fulfilled with our destiny, what I would do was, since I had all those powers and personalities inside my own body, I think the line was that I would begin to carve off my own flesh and eat it. And as I hemorrhaged and as I ate myself, I ate all these other writers as well. And when I died, I would resurrect and become God of whiskey writing. which is it's pretty far.
Which is what happened.
Yeah.
Which is what happened. It was far-fetched at the moment, but there was some behind the scenes black magic going on there. He did arise as the greatest whiskey writer there is.
Thank you very much for that. Thank you for saying. There are some incredibly talented writers out there. I'm just a freak show. Thank you for saying so, but
just the face of the operation, eh? Captain goes down with his ship. It was just me. I did it all. You caught me.
Nobody's going down with me.
Yeah, that's great, man. I remember the one time I shared the story that you wrote about me, and people were loving it, absolutely loving it. They're like, "What is this?" And I was like, "Follow the page, read it. It gets wild." I remember one you wrote about a deer who came home and like his doe was cheating on him or something, so he like killed her, and then he went and worked at a shopping mall. It was
that was my first article that I was really afraid to release because I said it's gone too far.
I had me hooked the whole time. I was like, man, where the fuck is this story going? And then like it ends and you're just like, here's the description of the whiskey. And I was like, this is amazing.
So
I wasn't ready for any part of that. The title like brings you in, and then you start reading, and then you forget why you're reading this crazy story, and then the whiskey pops up at the end, and you're like, oh shit, that's right.
The whole premise behind that is that I guess I was just trying to introduce. I didn't even know I was trying, but I was introducing new characters. We have a whole bunch of characters that I write about, and right now I'm in the middle of. I'm trying to tie off loose ends, which means that this project's going to come to an end, and the characters need to find their conclusion. So these guys need to have their conclusion, which is going to be that they're going to die, most likely, which is CWE fashion.
Yes.
So the whole story about Dean the deer. His girlfriend gets killed, and he kind of picks up a job just living behind Why Nots in Chippewa in the forest.
Yes.
And he's working in a pharmacy, and he wears a smock, and he really fits into public, and nobody is the wiser that no pun intended, nobody's the wiser that he is actually a deer in people's clothing. And everybody, he's asking chicks out on dates. He's getting around. He's out partying with people, and one day he moves on, and he exacts his revenge on a drunk hunter that he finds in the woods. And it's not just that he, kills him or he breaks his neck. He went far, man. Like the story went far. Like it was like a soft film. He drives a nail through his leg, a spike through his leg, which pins him to the ground, and he ends up just brutalizing them to the point that he punctures a hole in the guy's skull, and he fucks the guy in the brain. And I remember at one point the deer withdraws his penis from the brain, and he's like flicking brain matter off his dick. And then it, at one point it ties into a whiskey review, however it does, seamlessly, which makes perfect sense, right?
Exactly, man. That's why, that's what made me fall in love with the style of writing. It was just like brings you in with a topic, get lost, and then get fucked right at the end. You're like, oh shit, yeah, that's right. It's like walking into a Walmart and then leaving with things you didn't need. Like I got the one thing was the whiskey review, but all that other shit I just picked up along the way. Like,
you can imagine the reaction of people that are reading it for their first time and seeing stuff like that. So it was going pretty far, and I was going pretty far up the deep end. We went to a point that we didn't want to keep creating stories, so we ended up writing our own stories by going out and doing challenges. Like the one time, I think it was 2 years ago. Excuse me, I said, fuck it, I'm doing a Mustang. it's 2018, and I'm gonna be a grown man with a mustache, and I'm just gonna see what the reaction is. And I was working at the casino at the time, and when you're surrounded by 4,000 people, and they see you the exact same way for 6 years, and next thing you know, there comes this guy, and he's got a fucking full-blown dad stash. People were stopping in their tracks and doing double takes. I had a busboy walk up to me and just point his finger right in my face and go, "You are a piece of fucking shit," and then just went back on his day. And it was all because of the mustache. So I just kind of documented all those things that happened. Another challenge was me documenting when I bled out of my dick for a couple of weeks. That actually happened.
Well,
very painful.
Yeah, sounds like it.
It was brutal. I became a flat earther. I took on flat earth research for a few weeks. And it was funny because I was wearing my flat earth t-shirt. I went to the hospital about my bleeding penis. And the doctor looked at my shirt, looked at me, and he was just like, he was disgusted that I was in front of him, and he just treated me like absolute shit. If I was wearing a different shirt, he probably would have treated me, not this one, but a different one, he would have treated me different.
Yeah, that's hilarious. That's wild. That's crazy that you do these things as experiments. These are the best social experiments I've heard.
It was fun. We got into
government needs to do
got in their head.
I think the one thing that like I haven't and I don't want to get into too much research on is Scientology. I feel like that's like one of those things that's going to be like months and months and months and months of research. You know what I mean?
I watched a few documentaries. I've started around it.
It's intense.
The one day,
just to scratch the surface on it is intense.
The one day I watched a video on the Mandela effect, and then I started looking up quantum physics videos for 2 weeks. I was just like, I'm gonna be a scientist. Fuck it. Like that's all. I was like, I just kept watching stuff. I was like, don't understand that word. Look it up. They're describing it. Don't understand that word. Look it up. We got to just like retrace. We're going to start right at the beginning. 2 weeks later, I'm like, I don't understand anything anymore. Fuck, this is wild. This is too wild for me. But yeah, no. Do you guys have anybody who does comic strips at all, or has ever tried to send you fan art of any of your writings?
Yeah, I had a guy actually, a buddy of mine I went to school with. I told him, like, I'm looking for a picture of a guy drinking a bottle of Canadian whiskey, and his mind's blown by it. And I got a couple pictures out of it. Nothing really, it was all pretty raw, nothing I really wanted to go with. I was actually looking to do a comic strip or like a graphic novel with somebody, and I was going to call it Bath Salts, a Very Hungry Hobo. And it was going to be about the homeless guy getting his face chewed off by the guy on bath salts. You guys remember that story a few years ago?
Oh yeah.
That passed, and that became irrelevant. We're always looking for different things to do. Basically, it's me, my phone, and a Photoshop app, and our team just kind of doing stuff to write about. Really,
you should write one about COVID. And have it like COVID be like an entity, like a person or a thing. And like all it does is just wants to be friends with people. And like everyone keeps wearing a mask and refusing to like accept it. You know what I mean? So it's just this lonely fucking loser that's just like off to the side, all sad in the rain, and everyone's
then that's
wearing
when he
masks.
gets mad and he starts fucking taking it out on everybody.
Yeah.
Should have fucking been friends, dog. Should have listened.
Actually,
he's like the kid that shoots up the school, but he's just the infestation that nobody wanted to be friends with.
Just a loner. Like he's just like, hey guys, and everyone's like, shut up, COVID, fuck out of here. Somebody kicks him over and he fucks off somewhere.
He's getting bullied all the time. Yeah. Breaks up with him. Yeah. It's funny actually. I'm writing a story right now. It's about. Honestly, my favorite characters. They're called the 9-inch snails, and they're two space robots. And it's always the beginning is always the same. It is the future, and it's always a year ahead. So I'm writing about 2022, and humanity's wiped out by COVID at this point. We missed our chance, and humans are now literally extinct. And it's only February, so we got to get catching up on that. So the robots they land on Earth, and they're checking shit out, and basically their purpose is to find really good whiskey, and they're kind of going on a little banter back and forth, and they end up saying something about God, and God is a recurring character in CWE articles, and God's a slob, he's a drunk, he's always hungover, he can't hold a job. His apartment is just shit. He's behind on rent. He's always got empty beer bottles laying around. His girlfriend's always texting him, freaking out. And he's just basically, God is just basically some loser.
Just a douchebag.
Who has this incredible amount of power, but just absolutely just doesn't give a fuck. And he checks down on Earth every so often, but he just completely fucks up on everything he's trying to do.
Amazing.
True story. There was a kid.
True story.
There was a kid that broke into the whitewater slides down where the outlets are, the outlet malls are, in Niagara there. And a kid broke in at night, and he ended up going down the slides, and he ended up going over the railing. And the way he would have fallen so far that he would have died on impact. But he ended up falling on a slide underneath him, 3 stories down, and he ended up crushing his testicles.
Oh,
On his balls, and he fucking liquefied him with the impact.
Oh my God.
God's waking up. He's hungover. He's like, what the fuck is going on? Opens up the clouds and looks down, and there's this kid, and he's fallen to his death, and God's just like, you know what, I'll just fix this, and like, you're gonna fall here and stay alive. But he fucks up and he just liquefies his testicles.
Amazing.
Squishes his testes.
Amazing. I love it. So how often do you guys release articles? Weekly?
We were doing weekly. We put a lot of energy into it, so content takes time. Quality content takes time.
100%.
We were doing weekly. We were doing every 2 weeks, and then after a few years, we're doing every 3 weeks. And now, as of today, like, we do whenever we want. Really, we just put out a slew of articles, maybe 5 or 6 articles, or put out every 2 and 3 weeks. I'm taking a little bit of time right now to work on an article. Like I said, I don't want to put something out just because it's been 3 weeks.
Yeah.
I want to put something that is entertaining.
Yeah. You don't want to put out something that's unfinished and could have been better. 100%.
So what might happen is in a week from now, I might have 2 articles done, and then I have a little buffer, and I'm good for a little bit.
Okay. That's good. That's good. Anything else in the works other than just the 1 article, or you got?
We've always got articles on the go, man. We've always got articles, and once COVID lifts up again, we're gonna have lectures and tastings. I'm trying to switch my effort into writing a book called Head, and that's going to be my serious stab at a publication. It's in the vein of William Burroughs' Junkie, and it's going to be a sort of autobiographical. How do you say it? Autobiographical?
Yeah,
Autobiography?
Yeah, it's a lot of syllables in there. So what I'm going to do is just talk about growing up all the way to today, and just kind of document, not so much about smoking weed or tripping out on mushrooms. It's going to be more of a documentation of the personalities that you meet. You're going to meet cokeheads and meth heads, steroid, roid ragers. You're going to meet people that don't do any drugs at all, but they love coffee, or they're overeaters and they stare down on, they look down on people that do drugs, or they drink and they're high and mighty, but next thing you know, they're really gluttons. Everybody has their own vice. and more of a documentation of the personalities that you meet rather than I woke up today and smoked a joint. It's not going to be about that. It's going to be about getting out and meeting people at concerts, meeting people on the street, things that you see. I put out an article about going to grab weed downtown a long time ago now, and I'm in this really sketchy apartment. I don't know this guy, and these two hookers just come in and they sit on the couch, and I'm sitting there like watching Seinfeld, trying not to be a part of this group. And you look over and they're banging needles, and the one chick's got a spot of rot, an infection in the crook of her arm, and she's still banging in her forearm underneath the infection. And that's something I actually saw, and we document the story. Just shit like that. Real stuff. But it's not gonna be a fast, energetic, funny read. It's going to be really slow, really dark, really gray. The Falls is a ghetto, man, and we're telling people that it is, and we're going to show you why. And it's not the bright lights of Clifton Hill. It's dingy, it's dirty, it's boarded up walls, it's boarded up windows, and it's shut down businesses, and it's people only working half the year because of our tourism industry. So many times growing up trying to hang out with a buddy, and their parents have candles all throughout the house. Why are you guys burning so many candles? Oh, we couldn't pay the hydro bill this month, so we got to shut off. And meanwhile, they're on assistance, they're doing drugs, and it's going to dope or it's going other vices. And it's not about me judging these people. It's just about documenting their actions and their habits and how they kind of survive. So that's the other project, really. We talk about working in a kitchen as well. Talk about being a chef and the sort of people you see and the sort of adventures you have. Being a chef it's a pretty twisted road, man.
Definitely. Yep. No question. Whether I think being a chef is, I talked to my friends about this. One of my buddy, he's a horse trainer, and he works at Woodbine. And his job is a lot like ours. It's insane. It's the amount of he works with endless Jamaicans who are just savages who don't give a fuck about anyone's feelings. They'll you know what I mean? You could get robbed in the middle of the day on Woodbine when there's police 20 feet away from you. And it's just shit like that happens. It's wild. And then at the same time, you see us in the kitchen, and mentally, physically, the grind of I got to work at 6 a.m. and I got to work till 8, 9, 10 p.m. tonight. Go home for 2 hours, but you're not going to sleep, right? Because you're wound from the day, so you're going to go to bed at 2 a.m. You got to be back up at 6 a.m. to do that breakfast shift. Weber, you work 2 jobs. You know what it's like. Wow. It's wow. And then even just the strain on your body. Pointless. I'm 27 years old. There's no reason I should feel like a 38-year-old. I say that to people, and they're like, "Oh yeah, okay, buddy," and I'm like, "No, seriously, I'm sore, bro. You know what I mean? When you stand and move around, I think I started doing step counter a couple of years ago at work, and there'd be days at Ruth's Chris where I'd literally walk 10,000 steps. Oh yeah, and I'm like, I didn't move offline. I'm like, I didn't leave line. How did I go 10,000 steps? You move 10,000 steps in a circle, in a 4-foot radius. Yeah. You're dizzy at the end of the day. You can't figure out why. Well, you just circled around. Your range is behind you. Your cold table's in front of you, and you're doing fucking circles the entire time like an idiot. It's just wild. And then on top of all of that, right, the physical, mental stress of doing your job, you got to deal with the servers and the dumb people who show up to work, and then the buddy not showing up to work because he's too hungover, and now you're pissed off, and you have to be at work. It's an intense fucking job, and I think that's why, if you look at the industry, the people who generally stay in the industry for longer than 2-3 years, we are dark-minded. You have to be like that. There's no way to wake up every day and not think. You have to be able to think about the worst to be able to go to the best. And I think that's what kitchen guys are. I think we're willing to accept the shittiness. Right.
I just found out that I just had to smoke a lot of weed to not kill anybody at work. So, I get the job done and I didn't kill anybody. Have a nice day.
It's a good day.
See,
I didn't have to use my
I
AK.
Some of the guys that we used to work with, I was a little bit worried because they would smoke a ton of weed and they would still like throttle kids in the fridge when you walked away from them for a few minutes. Eh?
Oh, that's like that was like me at work.
There's people out there.
Oh yeah.
I'm that dude at work. I'll smoke a bunch of weed at work. I'll be fine, and then it's not until it say something stupid to me the first time I'm gonna be like, oh yeah, no problem, bro. Like it's over here. If you come back to me in the same fucking night and ask me where the mayonnaise is after you came to me an hour ago, I'm gonna hit you the next time. You don't get a third time. There is no 3 times. It's the one time. Number 2 is I'm yelling at you, making you feel like an idiot. Because by the time you ask me on number 3, you know damn well what's coming. So you're shaking before you walk through those doors. You don't even have to say anything.
On the third time, you just look at them and they're like,
And then one of my favorite things about like it's busy, right? And somebody comes up to you and they're like, how long for this table? And you're like, get fucked, like get out of my face, like you know what I mean? So they leave. And then you see them come back like 10 minutes later, but they won't come up to you and ask you. They'll go and ask like the nicest person in your kitchen, whether they're on pantry, desserts, dishwasher, whatever it is. Like they'll go up and be like, do you know how long for like table 78? Like, do you want to ask? You ask. He likes you. He doesn't like me. And I would start noticing that, so I'd start yelling at those people. Don't fucking talk to them. Come talk to me. I'm like, you know what I mean? Like, just like there's so much douchery that comes with that, and I think that's what makes me. I find dark humor hilarious. Like I heard a joke. Oh, what was it the other day? I heard a vicious joke the other day, and I'm gonna screw this up because I don't know it. It had something to do with shooting up schools, but it was just so vicious. And the way it was presented that I was just like, well done. Like, I'm cool with that. My buddy asked me a question too. This is another thing. Like, if you could stop a horde of, remember like the horde of 12-year-olds, Weber, we were talking about?
Yeah.
Like you could fight 12-year-olds. Another buddy asked me a question, really complex question yesterday. And this is only kitchen guys can do this. He goes, all right, you can shoot up a school and get away with it. Okay? Or you go to jail for life for a crime you didn't commit. And when I say life, I don't mean 25. I'm saying like you're going to die in prison. So do you go to prison on a crime you didn't commit, knowing you didn't commit it, or do you shoot up a school knowing you can get away with it? I'm going to be completely honest with you. I shoot up the school. I know that sounds fucking terrible, but like, what you know what I'm saying? Like, if I'm a human, and at the end of the day, I think every human has
if they can do it overseas with drones and shit and get away with it and not say boo about it, I ain't going to jail.
This is my thing, and I know that sounds terrible. I wouldn't actually shoot up school. I'd never do something like that, ever. But like, presented in a situation where my life is being taken away from me, right? Now, if I commit a crime and I go to jail for it on
Humans
something,
are a selfish animal.
That's one thing. But we are, and I think that's something that like being in the kitchen or just even like your articles or whatever, I think a lot of them kind of breed that understanding of like, some humans, and I think some of the darkest humans I've ever met, people who have the darkest sense of humors and have the darkest sense of reality, are sometimes the smartest people because they are willing to accept, and they're the nicest because they are willing to accept, this I've done with this, I've dealt with this, I've seen this, I've seen that. And when that happens to people, it hardens them in a way that when you do talk to them, there is a sense of, it's almost like a hug. You're feeling like you can release things to people. I feel like I'm one of those people that like, I'm dark and people like come up to me and they're like, hey man, like, can I talk to you for a minute? Like, dude, I'm going to make fun of whatever you're telling me. I'm maybe not to you, but the moment I leave, I'm probably going to say something fucked up about your situation. And I can't help that. Right. Like, and I think that we have like that dark sense of humor is definitely needed in more people. I think some people need it. It's important.
Yeah. It's almost like not having it. You have blinders on to situations and you get more upset about minor things in life. With a dark sense of humor, like the worst of the worst. And you're like, haha.
You find light in the worst, right?
Yeah, it's like dark humor is like, it's got a stigma to it, but fuck, man, if you're gonna just enjoy it and just there, bam. Like,
I think the saying is, my buddy told me this once. Dark humor is like clean water. Not everybody gets it.
Yeah. I heard a similar one.
Pretty dark in itself.
Yeah, exactly.
Pretty dark. No, I get it. It's
a lot of people.
There's no other way to express it.
Yeah. I think that's part of being in the kitchen, right? I think
Yeah.
it's you cope. That's one way to cope, right? Like I don't know if I could. I don't know if I've ever met a kitchen person that's like they get off work after 12 hours, getting crushed all day, and they're like, you know what, man? Let's go for a walk, dude. Let's just go for a nice stroll in the park, or like, you know, what we should do. We should go like do some fun shit. No, like it's always like, let's go smoke a blunt. Let's go have a drink. I'm going home to fucking sleep. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's never an in between. It's hard for me to meet people that are like, get off work and they're like, yeah, I'm gonna go do a whole bunch of shit now. I mean, I could probably do laundry when I get off work, but that's because I could just turn the washing machine on and fuck off somewhere. You know what I'm saying? But like, nah, like you get off work, you don't want to fucking do shit. You don't want to fucking social. If I do want to socialize, I just want to go to the bar and then get probably half drunk. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's where like that dark humor comes. You only have certain vices, right? Can't put it in the happiness. I think people that are dark humor, you hear this a lot. People that are happy all the time, they say, "Well, I think a life is half full or glass half full," right? You hear that expression, and I think that people that are happy actually think the opposite. I've learned in my life that people that are happy usually think glass half empty. Okay, because they are happy and they are used to having things go their way. Glass half empty makes more sense for them because that means you do have half. Glass half full to people who are dark is more understanding of what you do have. Do you understand what I'm saying? I think people who are dark humored think glass half full because then I'm looking at it and I'm like, this is where it's at. I'm not, you know what I mean? It's not going to get much worse. Maybe I lose a little bit more water, but I mean, at the end of the day, I still got this much, right? People that are happy, it's like glass half empty. It's like, well, I'm happy, but like, I could have this car and I could have this, and they never really reach that level of happiness they want. I find dark people are all super accepting of what they are and what they want, and I think that's where I've hit in my life, at least, is like my dark humor is taking me to a place where I can actually just sit down and be like, this is what I want, this is where I'm at, this is what's actually attainable, and I'm good with that. And I'm real with it because you have to be, right? And I think people are too happy or too like maybe I don't want to say like happy people because I'm a happy person myself. I don't want to make it like that, but I think dark humor is part of that understanding. Is what I mean. I'm a happy person. I'm super happy, but it's just like you do understand that having that dark humor makes you a little more realistic on things.
Absolutely. You guys mind if I know we talk about all this stuff, but would you guys mind if I took a minute to read an article?
Yeah,
absolutely,
sure.
Absolutely. That's what we're here for. I'd love to hear one.
Thank you. I did I think it was actually I wrote it off as a challenge a few years ago, but I had my the company's 5th birthday party. We did a free show at the Why Nots, and we had my buddies from the Electric Dead come down and do a show, and the whole thing was, I was going to do a reading, and I expected, all maybe 4 people to show up. And there ended up being like 40 or 50 people that came to this thing to come have drinks, watch the show. And I went up and read a couple of articles. And when I went up to read these articles, I picked some really good ones that I really enjoyed writing, and I thought they were quite funny. And the one was about this kid that, he's an actual kid. He's this actual conversation that we had, but he was like this incredibly naturally born athlete. And he was born built essentially, and he was a good-looking kid, and he was handsome, he was fit, he was physically strong, he was a smart kid, he was a good kid, and he would tell me like, I can run this fast, I can throw a ball this far, I could never slam dunk a basketball. And as we gained trust for each other, he would tell me, like, buddy, I'm 16, I'm 17, I'm still a virgin, I'm really frustrated and all this stuff, right? And I said, you know what, man, we're going to fix this right now. And I went and I grabbed one of the server, and I said, hey, man, give me the number to your favorite escort. Let's get this shit taken care of right now. So we go down to this empty park, and this is the story that I'm reading to these people at my show. And we're at this empty park, and there's like, we're on a basketball court, and there's nobody around. And there's like one light that's kind of like dim, so nobody can really see what's happening. And there's this hooker, and she's bent over, she's holding on to this pole, and this kid's like really excited, like this is the big day, this is what's going to happen, right? And I looked at the kid and I said, hey, but here, she's bent over, she's got her skirt lifted up. I said, she's ready for you, big guy. Like, this is your chance. And he starts getting all worked up. You remember your first time, right? He starts getting all worked up and he starts like advancing towards her from across the park. And he gets so excited, he starts running and he starts sprinting towards this hooker. And as he gets like so close, I take this basketball and I throw it up in the air. And he jumps up and he steps on the hooker's back and he leaps up in the air. He grabs the basketball and he slam dunks it. And he gets his first slam dunk ever in his entire life. And he's hanging off the rim and he breaks it and he falls down, right? And we're just high-fiving, like, man, that's awesome. Your first slam dunk, dude. Like, how does it feel? Your big days. It's awesome. And the hooker, she's like broken. She's broken on the ground and her pelvis is shattered. And she's laying in the dark park and she's going, call me an ambulance. Like, you're an ambulance. And we just kind of take off, right? I tell this story in front of this group and every like 40, 50 people dead silent. Like just staring at me like, what do we do? Is that a joke? Is he an idiot? My mom is staring at me like my parents were there and they're like, who the fuck is this guy, right? And that's the humor. That's the story that we tell. And the other one was again, just and it shook me. And I was like, holy fuck, like of all this effort I put into this, nobody had any reaction and they were all just staring at me like I wasn't even there. And it shook me. I didn't know how to deliver my next story. And my next story was like, oh, this one's going to be a good one. And, a guy gets a call at home and he picks up the phone and this guy says, hey man, I have good news and bad news. I said, well, what's the bad news? And he's like, well, your wife's dead. He goes, holy shit, what's the good news? He goes, oh, my wife's dead too. And he's at the phone, right? And I look at the crowd and they're just staring at me and it's like, you hear like, I'm going, okay, cool guys. Like that's what you came here for. Like, like you guys had no reaction. And it really shook me. And we got to the third one. I think people were really, really drunk. And it was just me. I stole my best friend's identity. I took his phone number. I took his email. I took his name. I took everything I could about him. And, I go into, when I was out shopping, you got an email? You want promotions? Yeah, I got an email. You want my phone number too? Here, send promotions to this dickhead over here. Send him his number, send him his name, send him his emails. Next thing you know, he's getting all these promotional ads. He's getting all these promotional texts and phone calls and emails and all this shit. The guy's just swamped. He's inundated with all these promotions. Got more reaction to that one. But if you guys don't mind, if you don't mind me staring at this screen over here, I wouldn't mind reading a review I did. It's about me going to Doc McGilligan's on Lundy's Lane, and I went to go to a Johnny Walker tasting.
Mm-hmm.
Actually happened, and just kind of the adventure that we went on that day. If you don't mind, I'm just gonna read this off.
Yep.
All right. Madness erupts at the Johnny Walker tasting. If you ever told me that I would be a 38-year-old man being awoken by a smaller version of myself, holding a yellow Japanese lightning cat yelling Pikachu in my now punctured eardrum, I would never stop taking acid. Instead, I'm finding myself in a blurry haze of hangover, trying to dry swallow a dozen Tylenol and gazing over emails from a strange person asking for my address so they can break down my door and cut my body in half while my son is playing Pokemon somewhere in the house. Geez, what did I do last night? I walk downstairs into my kitchen. I yell aloud, hey, Google, resume. To which point it starts playing a selection of songs from the 50s rock band, The Coasters. Pouring a cold cup of coffee from my fridge as yakety yak ends, there goes my Google. I can taste rubber and blood in my mouth. One of my most favorite songs, Along Came Sorry.
He said, "Hey Google," and it went off.
My Google started going.
That's so funny.
Yeah, I had to interrupt the story. So, pouring a cup of cold coffee from my fridge as yakety yak ends. I can taste rubber and blood in my mouth. One of my most favorite songs, Along Came Jones, comes on, and it describes a large, slow-talking dullard named Jones. He's a bit of a hapless hero who saves the day from an anonymous villain who demands the deeds to a person's ranch or he will blow up a girl with dynamite. A fun scenario we just don't seem to hear enough of these days. It hits me. I was at a hotel bar last night, spending my last $40 on a Johnny Walker tasting. Dressed in some brand new khakis, nice button-up shirt, black DC sneakers, my hair done real good, and an Armani jacket. I sat between a couple older gentlemen and a group of truck-driving hicks wearing camo caps and chatting Buffalo Bills trades. I sat with my moleskin notebook, taking down notes and descriptions of the JW lineup in front of me, while a small ginger-headed Bud Bundy lookalike started droning on about the wonders of Johnny Walker as a response to poor quality single malts in the year 1865. The clowns to the left of me were gabbing about caramel and iodine. Are you in the bathroom? The clowns to the left of me were gabbing about caramel and iodine, while the jokers to my right were asking for larger pours of Johnny Black, Johnny Double Black, and just begging for more booze of whatever was being poured, while I was stuck in the middle with a ballpoint pen and lined paper, gazing at an empty glass. I peered over as one of the older gentlemen to my left said to his buddy that the doctor said he shouldn't be drinking on these, and he popped the blue pill in his mouth. I stuck my hand out and asked if he had any extra to offer. As the tasting finished up, the fucktards to the right were getting rowdy and demanding more booze. Obviously drunk, as was I, they started to make me feel anxious. I decided to go for a walk through the hotel floors so I could take a minute to sober up enough to interview the Johnny Walker rep when I got back. Traveling through the fourth floor of the hotel, I overheard the throes of passion as two or more people were engaged in some very loud sex act. I slipped my phone under the door and recorded a voice memo trying to figure out just how many people were fucking in this now probably very smelly and humid room. I withdrew my phone and went back downstairs to see one of the goons shaking the Johnny rep. He was shaking him like a teenage mother shakes a crying baby. He was obviously drunk and demanding for the Johnny Blue, which was a request previously denied. Seeing the sheer terror in the small ginger man's eyes, I walked over to the two and I asked the redneck to put the man down, as the other members of the group had all disappeared. The man told me to get fucked as he kept throttling the tiny victim. So I reached over and I bit the large man's ear until my bottom row of teeth met the top, and I spit out chewy cartilage, and I stabbed my dick pen into his thigh. As if my hand were still begging for pills, palm up, I shoved it into his stomach and grabbed his floating rib and walked the screaming imbecile out to the front of the hotel. And I shoved him into a snowbank where he collapsed and clutched the pen, still sticking out from his thigh. I walked back in. That deserves a pour of Johnny Blue, I said, straightening out my plaid shirt. The police are coming for you, you maniac, stated the shaken Johnny Walker rep. And he was right. I took a business card from the bar and walked down the road to grab a slice of pizza while the police whizzed past me to the hotel. They crowded the man with a missing chunk of ear and beat him senseless. They walked back in the hotel where they all drank from the bottle of Johnny Blue before climbing back into their cop cars and taking off. After eating the pizza, I told the man behind the counter that I had no money to pay. Looking at the business card, I noticed the rep's name and crept his Facebook profile. I found pictures of his girlfriend who had her name tagged in a few of his vacation posts. I found her profile on Facebook and I messaged her, saying that she should hand over the deeds to her father's ranch or I'd tie her up to a train track. Her response was immediate and confused. So I resorted to telling her that her boyfriend was engaging in a ferocious sex act with possibly multiple partners at the Best Western. I sent her the voice memo of loud moaning. I noticed a greasy pizza stain on my khakis. I walked out, hailed a cab, stumbled through my front door when the battery in my phone died. The next day, I was laying in bed when my son ran into my room with his favorite new stuffed animal, shouting, Pika, Pikachu, in my ear before my wife ushered him downstairs. I stumbled into the bathroom, took a 6-minute piss, and reached for the Tylenol. I charged my phone, grabbed the coffee, started reading my emails. Johnny Red, alcohol 40%. Nose, light, fruity, grainy, and a little puff of smoke. Some black fruits, clouded by whiffs of peat, but this also shows char, vanilla, and some sharp greens. Palate, light and syrupy until the heat pierces through the palate. Rubbery peat comes into play in the middle, but is restrained and enjoyable. There's some sweet sherry and some cracking malt. Overall, 74 points. And that's the review. That's what we do at CWE.
That was amazing.
I fuck with that.
That was amazing. That was fucking hilarious.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
God damn.
I don't read it as well as it should be read.
Oh, you did good.
That's the story.
I'll read them for you and translate them to audiobook for you.
I'm hoping that I can get a collection of these and I don't know, print them out, publish them, something. I don't know. I think there's something that can come of this.
You could definitely take what you have and like your favorite stories and probably put them all together into like a short stories book, like a compilation or something.
Yeah, you could.
Or like the ones that you have of like similar characters. Maybe throw those all together. Like these are the stories of these guys. These are the stories of these guys.
Kind of be like the chicken soup for the teenage soul or whatever, but for like all of your articles.
But it's like flaming hot ramen for the hated. I don't know.
Yeah.
You lost steam. So the story with there is an ongoing story, and it's with Dean Beer, and he's stalking a couple police right now. And one's dead now, but he was stalking a couple police, and the story's traveling. And if you're going to Facebook and you're reading these articles, you're kind of traveling back in time. So you're reading the latest story and you keep going back and back and back. So you're kind of finding out where Dean came from and why these guys were here, and the whole story goes backwards. So that's a pretty good idea that we could put something in some sort of timeline that moves the whole story forward, so it's not backwards.
I mess with the backwards. That's cool. No, that's awesome, man. That you have so many ventures. That was a great read. I thoroughly enjoyed that. I like the story, how it ended up, the recording the sex acts, and then later on using it as a ransom base. And like, oh man,
yeah,
how it all just fucking woo.
It's all pretty circular.
At the beginning, you're like, okay, this guy's just wild. And then it comes all full circle and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I was happy with that one, man. I like how you don't know that it's useless. It's not useless detail. Like, why do I care if this guy's, got new pants on? Why do I care if this kid's yelling Pikachu? Why do I care if there's a sex act in a hotel? Of course, it's a hotel, people fuck. But yeah, it all comes together, and the whole thing is that there's a lot of reality in these stories. Yeah, there's a lot of fantasy, but you kind of have to realize where the fantasy ends and the reality starts. There is a lot that actually happens that people are going like, hold on, that's fake. And like, no, we actually did that. And there's a lot of times where people go, oh, you did that, right? And you're like, no, it's fake. But a lot of this stuff, the ideas for the stories, I can't just dream them up. The ideas for the stories actually happened at some point in some way or another.
Amazing. Well, keep doing what you're doing for sure, because it's definitely enjoyable. And I love the fact that it's gotten such a great reaction.
Oh, thanks, buddy.
Yeah. Is there anywhere else? So you got your website, your Facebook page. Do you have that?
Yeah. It's on Facebook. We have Canadian Whiskey Enthusiast.
Anywhere else to find you? You got a Twitter handle? Do you use any other social medias, or is it just Facebook and your website?
Canadian Whiskey Enthusiast on Instagram.
Okay.
That's pretty mild. Just pictures, fun stuff that we're promoting on the Facebook page. I stay off of Twitter, man. It's too sensitive.
It's weird. Twitter's wild.
Yeah, it's too sensitive.
It's like whatever
We
you're
have
thinking in short little blurbs. It's wild.
yeah, yeah. We have our website, Canadian Whiskey Enthusiast.wordpress.com. You Google Canadian Whiskey Enthusiast, we're coming
Yeah.
up.
All the links will be in the description down below. So
Perfect, nice.
that'll be awesome.
Yeah.
Anything else you'd like to say to the people out there?
Yeah, if anybody's actually interested in getting into whiskey, it's a big, scary world. Um, we got into this for the whole reason of education. We were learning about whiskey ourselves, and we wanted to teach others about whiskey. There's a lot of people out there that do their job very, very well. We're trying to grab the people that are undecided or fence sitters if they want to come in. And I'm the one that says, hey man, I know you're afraid and I know you're in a situation where you're unsure, but I was in your position and you're good. Come with us.
Yeah, it's crazy,
Yeah.
like getting people to try like a new alcohol that's outside of their comfort zone or something that they wouldn't try on the regular.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's like new foods or any new experiences, right? People are so afraid and unsure about trying new things. And when you're going to buy a bottle of whiskey, they're at least $40. So I mean, do you really want to gamble $40? Do you want to gamble 100? That's why we have so much reference out there. There's a big world of people that promote and write their stories. Um, I am going to say right now, and this is something I've always said, if you really want to learn about whiskey, read it. Stay off of YouTube, man. Stay away from bloggers. They're just bloggers are hot right now. The word influencer goes around a lot, and a lot of these guys are just in it for the freebies, money. It's easy. It's easy to make a video. It's tough to write something. It's tough to read something. It's easy just to turn on your screen and watch something, or go to YouTube and watch a couple guys dick around over a bottle. Uh, you know, what I do and a lot of what the writers do, it takes time and it takes research and it takes dedication, it takes wit, and it takes a little bit of skill as well. If you want to learn about history, if you want to learn about bottles, you want to learn about what's behind the whiskey, then read it and watch it.
Awesome. Great, man. It was great having you on. Thanks for coming out. Thanks for talking with us.
Thank you.
It's been a great pleasure. And everybody check it out, Canadian Whiskey Enthusiasts. If you enjoyed that story or stuff-esque like that, definitely check it out. It's worth it. And you'll have a good chuckle. But see you later, guys. That's Assholes with Opinions.
Peace, boys.
Thanks.
Assholes with opinions. Assholes with opinions. Assholes with opinions. Assholes with opinions.